Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and this episode 375. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Stacy. That is at StacyPatton89 on Twitter. Stacy, how are you doing on this basketball-less Wednesday afternoon?
The one time I'm thankful the Knicks don't have to play because they could use every day of rest they can get right now. So thankful they got the extra 2 days.
Yeah, it's good to have time off for them. It's good to have time off for us. Everybody likes time off, other than Doc Rivers, who apparently did not want time off and has come back to just drop endless, ridiculous quotes. But we're not here to talk about Doc Rivers. Maybe we are. Who knows? Who knows what the hell we're going to talk about? We might talk about Doc Rivers. But before we get started, you have to make a few announcements. First, being that Strickland has an Instagram. Check that out. That is at the Strickland on Instagram. Posting all that new content on there. The Strickland also has a YouTube channel where you may be watching this podcast. If you are not done so already, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment. That would be a huge help to us. Strickland also has merchandise, which you can find on our website, www.thestrick.land. There's a link that'll take you to the merchandise store, and you can find all kinds of cool stuff: t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we've got it. Strickland also has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There's a $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland, this podcast that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to Yes. I don't know. I haven't done this in so long, I completely forgot. You also get access to Takes from Obvious Bozos, our newest podcast that is hosted by Andrew Steele, aka Doug, along with Zach Blatter. And of course, you also get access to the Strickland Discord with the conversation never stops. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland, my solo pod where I rant and rave about the Knicks even more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Murray, one of the best in the business. And now you get access to Strictly NFL, our newest podcast that is about, you guessed it, the NFL, that is hosted by Konstantin Mechkos and Jeffrey Rasmussen. There are further tiers. There's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and a $100 tier. Let's go with a variety of additional benefits like listening to pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly, whether you choose to subscribe or not. None of this would be possible without you. And none of this would be possible without Bet Online. Bet Online continues to be your number one source for all your basketball wagering needs, including pro and college hoops throughout the year. With up-to-the-minute odds, stats, and trends, you can follow your favorite team's path to the playoffs with in-game live betting, contests, and all the best player props. Experience the world's best wagering platform anytime from your desktop or your mobile devices. Head to Bet Online today to become part of the team. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online. The game starts here. How's your All-Star break been?
Relaxing, I think we all needed a break, as you said. So time off is good. Paid time off is better. So, if you're hearing that, paid time off is good. But yeah, pretty relaxing. How about yours?
It's been good. It's good. Went to Atlantic City. That was fun. Spent most of my time with the sports book there. That was cool. I did all right. I ended up like net $40, so not great. But if you're there for 3 days, $40 at the end of it, not including room.
Man, lost again. Never get on the road to Metuchen.
Yeah, me and Fat Dom. But yeah, I look, I was happy. I figured, you go in expecting you might lose a couple $100. You end up $40. I'll take it. Between the sports book and craps, I did okay. So look, nobody wants to hear about my gambling stories. I mean, maybe they do, but I'm not going to tell them right now. But the Knicks are back tomorrow night. They play Philadelphia, and then they play Boston on Saturday in a national primetime game. But we're getting some guys back. Seems DiVincenzo should be back. Seems Hartenstein should be back. I think Bogdanovich also. We're getting some good news on Randall. He actually just came out and did his first media availability since he got hurt. So that's good to see. And Tibbs seems to be, saying all the right things about him doing the work to get back. OG got an update on him yesterday. He actually mentioned that, that the injury was tough for him to play through. Like he was playing through it in January, but obviously it just became unbearable. So it is what it is. I mean, look, if that's how he plays through a fucking injury, make sure he gets right. I'm happy with that. But yeah, look, They needed this break. We talked about it for it felt like the entire fucking week and a half before the All-Star break. We were just like, oh my God, can we just get there already? Like, this team is about to fucking die. But they didn't. They survived, and they are here now. They're going to be coming out of this break. So I'm pretty excited to watch them play, man. It feels like, look, I know there have been some reactionary takes about the Bogdanovich and Burks trade. I just think that it's been such a weird situation they've immediately had to jump into. Then you had that bullshit fucking Houston game where the entire team got screwed, specifically Jalen Brunson. So look, I just am excited to see them in a more, they've had time to practice and kind of get settled. And I'm excited to see this team gradually get healthy. Like I said, I think Randall, honestly, man, I think Randall's going to be back for OG. I really do. I just see it. I feel it.
You think he's going to be back by what, sir?
I think he's going to be back for OG. I do. We'll see. But he's been around the team for a while. Now he's doing media availability again. I don't know, man. I don't know. Getting good feelings. But either way, both of them don't seem like they'll be too far off now. So that's huge for the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean it's really the long game at this point. I think the way Cleveland's playing in their schedule, the 2 seed is probably out of reach, but the 3 seed still is there. So they've done a good job of treading water despite all of this. I think we talked about this, but they ended up 4-5 after Randall got hurt or something like that.
And they're 4-5 after Randall got hurt. Because Randall and OG. So Randall gets hurt in the Miami game, and then OG gets ruled out before the next game. I don't remember what the fuck they were playing.
So since that, losing your starting forward, your starting small forward, your starting power forward, your second option on offense, your best defender who really I think it didn't come out quite as much, but you can really see the difference in the Knicks defense. Even when they still had Grimes without OG, they're already missing Mitch. They missed Dante. They missed Brunson for a game. They're treading water, which is a credit to Tibbs. We talked about the minutes, what happened with Dante and all that, but the team is not going to just fold. They don't punt games, and we can talk whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but they've definitely continued to play well. I think some of their new additions, Precious has been huge. I think that when you talk about OG and Randall being out, the Knicks don't have this level of success without Precious Chua. I think you have to start there, and that gives you some optimism about Burks and Bogdanovich. It's always going to feel a little bit not great. You traded a young player they invested a lot in. The whole, I think a lot of the takes on the Donovan Mitchell, and whether they're willing to include him, where they lacked a lot of context. If you have to put him in as a throw-in, I'm sure the Knicks were like, no, we're not putting Grimes in as a throw-in or just like the key young player in this deal if we still have to give up all the picks and we still have to give up someone like Quickly or RJ. But I think with that aside, I think it's still a little early. I've actually liked the way Bogdanovich has played. They still aren't maximizing him probably, and he's still finding his way, but I think he's done a good job of picking his spots. His defense hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be. And Burks, the process isn't there, but he still hit some tough shots. And I do think Burks is a guy who will benefit from some practice and just, you could see it even the season when he's running point guard, which obviously didn't work that well. That starting lineup still had I think a positive net rating, right? 2.0 or something like that. So, he can play that role if he just knows where guys are going to be and his reads are simple. And I think he'll get there. That part of his game hasn't gone away. He can still create space. He can still hit shots. He can still draw attention. So I think that they should be fine with that trade. It would be awesome if they could get some more help for the Boston game. I'd really like to see what this team looks like at full strength against them. But I would imagine OG and Randall are still going to be out for
that. Yeah, they're not going to be back right now. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I think that I don't know. There's all these fucking. I can't like ever take the beat seriously because they're just so bad at paraphrasing. But like I don't know, maybe Randall just said that he might need surgery. But he might still need surgery. But I think that sounds like something that probably would happen after the season. I don't know. Look, we'll see.
Yeah, but I mean that's still concerning if his shooting arm needs surgery. A guy who has struggled in the playoffs, that is concerning, right? So,
yeah, I mean it's concerning, but I will. I don't know. We'll have to see how it works out. I haven't even listened to the fucking thing yet. But of course, because we can't ever fucking get exact quotes, we just paraphrase. Thank you to the beat. How could I know what the context was or how he said it or anything? So
they asked him, "Do you need surgery?" And he said, "Maybe, maybe not. Maybe fuck yourself."
yeah, I mean that would be an interesting response. I I don't know. What did you think of the All-Star game? What do you think of the All-Star game? What do you think of the All-Star weekend? I actually don't. I think it's really stupid. Like, I think it's dumb that the players don't give a shit. But I also like. I don't care enough to opine on how to fix the game. I honestly kind of think they should just scrap the entire thing. Maybe just keep like the 3-point contest and build around that. But like, I don't need to see the fucking dunk contest anymore. I don't really need to see the All-Star game. Like if that was if like look, I it was on because I was at the casino, so it was on fucking everywhere. So I happen to watch enough of it. But like if that's what it is, like I'm fine with them just not having it. If the players don't give a shit, then okay, then just don't have the game. Like I don't really are we sure do we need the game? Like, do we really need the game? If the point is like, well, we just want to have all-stars, okay, fine. Then pick fucking all-stars. That's fine. You don't need to have the game. You don't need to have it. You can make it like a big fucking weekend. Again, like I think the All-Star Saturday stuff is still fine. Even the Friday stuff is fine, right? The Rising Stars game, whatever. Maybe get rid of the celebrity game because I don't know. Do you ever watch that? I never watch it.
Well, I think we're also at an age, Shwin, where it's if they have YouTube influencers and stuff, we're just not going to be as into that.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
I mean,
when
look,
I was a kid, if I saw like J. Cole or a kid, meaning in my 20s, I saw like J. Cole in the game, that was cool, right? So for a segment of fans, I'm sure it's more interesting and appealing.
For like Zach.
I didn't want to name names, but yeah.
For like Zach and Chris. I love that guy. I subscribed to his channel since I was
Did you see
fourth grade.
Did you see that dunk Young Percocet had?
But yeah, like look, whatever. I think the Friday and Saturday stuff is largely fine. Just get rid of the dunk contest because it is awful. And can they just make the skills challenge what it used to be when it was just like a course and you just did that instead of all these weird like let's have teams. I don't know. That stuff bothers me, but like that stuff it's pretty easy to fix, I think. The All-Star game is just broken, dude. Like they don't need it. I don't think they should worry about it. And I kind of think they just shouldn't have it. Like if they don't want to play, is somebody like clamoring for the All-Star game? Like is there somebody who's just like we need to have this so boring?
Well, yes, actually. It is a big weekend for the NBA. For their partners, for the people who get to be there and see these guys up front.
Yeah, it's awesome.
In place. What I'm saying is there is a very real incentive that goes beyond the fans for the NBA. I don't think you can fix. I mean, I would love to see a better.
Can't you like if the game just sucks, which the game sucks. Like it's been bad for like years at this point. Then just don't do the game. Do something else. Do anything else. Just don't do the game because they're not going to take it seriously. They're not. And they've shown that. They basically all the quotes after the game were just LeBron being like, "Yeah, it's good. Nobody got hurt." Like, okay, great. Like that's awesome. They don't care. They don't care. And I honestly I kind of like struggled to be that upset. I think it's whack they don't care. Like I think it's stupid that they're not competitive about it. But like I don't know, dude. I'm not playing 82 games a year. I don't have playoffs. I don't have any
beyond that. I mean, how I would like to see a competitive All-Star game. How would you have felt if Jalen Brunson got hurt taking a charge because it's a competitive game? Or
But I guess I think the thing that I get annoyed about is I'm like, there's a difference between yes, taking a charge. Like I don't want anybody taking a charge in any All-Star game, competitive, non-competitive, whatever. But there's a difference between like that and like, can we get some cool moments? Like, can we get KD isolated on fucking Tatum, whatever it is, and like they actually care. They care, they try in this isolated possession. Like that, I don't think is asking for a lot, and I don't think it's risking a lot. Like, I'm not asking for them to did you make sure you guys nail your defensive rotations and close out, make sure you get back in transition, all this stuff. Like, no, obviously we understand the nature of the game is an exhibition, but even within an exhibition, there's a level of competition. I mean, have you seen Rocky IV? It was an exhibition fight. And
so are you saying you want motherfuckers to die out there?
Yeah, I'm just
he dies, he dies.
Fight for your country. No, and your political beliefs. No, but like it's just, I don't know. Like I just think there's a level of competitiveness it can get to, even if I agree and understand why players not I agree, but even if I understand where players are coming from, I'm like, okay, I get that, but like in these moments, you still really you can't do anything in these moments. Like, I don't know. That's what I think the game totally lacks now. And I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember what a fucking year it was? Probably like 2010 or something like that. But like it was a close All-Star game, and LeBron had the ball with Kobe defending him, and then he passed it to somebody for a three, and it was like the right play. But after the game, I think it was Kobe who was kind of that's it's the moment, just fucking go one-on-one with me, and that's what the fans want to see, type of thing. And I don't even know if he said it after the game or if he was saying it to him on the court during a timeout or something like that. I forgot what exactly happened, but I'm like, don't you have a sense of showmanship? And and honestly, the thing that pisses me off more than look, I can understand why they don't care about it and whatever, but this idea that they don't owe anything to the fans actually pisses me off. I'm not saying you need to fucking kiss our ass, and I get when they get frustrated, fans, but you can't act like fans are. You want to know why you make money? Do you want to know why corporate sponsors give away millions of dollars to the league and pump up the revenue streams and everything? Do you know why fucking ESPN and ABC and their broadcast partners and TNT pay billions of dollars for the rights? Because people watch this shit. People care. People care. People spend their money. They spend their time watching and caring about this league and going to games and buying fucking jerseys and all this shit. You do owe it to the fans to do something for them. Again, All-Star Saturday, I thought was pretty awesome, aside from one, the dunk contest, two, whatever the fuck Kenny Smith was talking about. But that's fun, when I went to the All-Star game, which was a decade ago at this point, All-Star Saturday, that was the best part of the entire weekend. It's fun as hell. It's great. It's casual atmosphere. You got all the stars sitting along, they're in the crowd, right? They're reacting to everything with us and shit. It's fun. It's cool. But if the All-Star game, if they're not gonna, because it's like you said, it is kind of for the fans, right? Well, if you're not actually gonna give a shit, which to some extent the fans want you to give a shit. If you're not gonna even hit that low bar that fans want, then just don't have it or replace it with something, because you watched it, right? I'm sure you watched at least pieces of it. Were you at any point where you're like, wow, this is so entertaining? Even the dunks are boring because there's it's just a fucking layup line and nobody wants to contest anything. There's nobody back there. It's just what is the point of that? Honestly, what is the point of that? I don't even want to watch that. I don't it's oh, do you like going to the park and just watching people warm up? Is that, oh yeah, this is so cool. I love watching this random dude from 3 blocks away work on his fucking fadeaway jumper while nobody contests him before we shoot for teams. I don't know. I just think there's they need to just get rid of something or change it entirely. Maybe it doesn't need to be a game. I don't know what it needs to be, but it shouldn't be that.
Yeah, I think you can make it more competitive. I wonder if there's incentives. Like the MLB went to giving the winning conference or the winning league their the home court advantage. I wonder if you could do that. Um, Something like that. You could do a cash prize. You know, maybe with gambling, if there's some incentives for players. I mean, do you think it'd be crazy to have players incentivized to make their prop bets? I don't know. It'd probably be really bad now that I think about it, but maybe just for the All-Star game. Um, you can experiment with things like that. I mean, I think I've always said this, like to your point on Kobe and LeBron, have a one-on-one contest and make it worth their while and put some money into it. I don't know that the NBA is willing to do that. And I don't know that this is such a Adam Silver complained, but is it actually an issue for them that the All-Star game isn't great? Maybe it's not a problem that needs to be fixed, to your point, right? Like who cares? Like maybe the All-Star game is gonna suck. It's for the celebrities there, it's for the people who get to see their friends and their corporate partners who get to
Maybe.
like be around there. Um, I thought that the Sabrina Steph competition was actually really cool. It was very competitive.
Were you mad that Sabrina didn't use a men's ball and didn't shoot? Like, were you upset about that? Like Kenny Smith was?
Yeah, I mean, he's also upset that Kyle Kuzma is apparently better than Jalen Brunson. So who knows? But that's literally what he said, right? Every time they take the floor, Brunson is the second best player, which means he thinks Kyle Kuzma is better than Jalen Brunson.
Jordan Poole.
So I don't know how much credibility we want to give to Kenny Smith. I think a one-on-one contest does a lot there, and you can do it by position. I mean, obviously, you don't really want Jalen Brunson one-on-one with Nikola Jokic or something, but do it for guards, do it for forwards, do it for centers, right? Just the way you do it. I don't think you need to get rid of the actual game. I think there have been the first one with the Elam ending did have some kind of competitiveness. You can create some incentives there. Maybe go back to the draft, so there's a little bit of a personal thing. I thought the USA World idea that they did with the Rising Stars was a cool idea. I don't know how much that affected the bottom line, but I think that's an interesting thing because you see a lot of players, a lot of American players talking about, wanting to show that, this is still our league. You talk about, Canada has really had a huge rise.
But you probably don't have I think the problem with that always arises. It's easier to do. I think they used to do that in hockey. I don't know if they still do it. But hockey is very split, right? In terms, I think they should do North America versus the world. But the NHL demographics make that a lot easier. Whereas if you did America versus the world in hoops,
I think yes, still have I mean, look at the international team would be insane.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they wouldn't be awesome. What I'm saying is that I still think the talent pool of all-star caliber players is skewed towards Americans versus the rest of the world. So you would be cutting out the all-star bids. Let's say a guy
you're saying that would influence the voting, is what you're saying.
And not just that, it would dictate it because you'd be like, okay, well, a guy like Brunson might get left off just because he's American and they are only taking 12, right? Whereas if you go 12 international, maybe a guy like I haven't sat down and done this.
Wembanyama would have gotten in, right?
Yeah, which would be fine. I mean, it's fine. He's a very entertaining player. But what if a guy like Wiggins got in this year? You know what I mean? So is he getting in because he's an all-star? Or is he just getting in?
The wrong Canadian, bro. Look at your podcast.
Yeah, well, he's no longer on the Knicks. So, yeah, I mean, for sure, whatever. Just say RJ Barrett. Okay, so he would get in, and it's he's obviously not an all-star caliber player this season, but he would get in because he's born on I guess in this case, the right side of the border. I don't know. I
think, but let's count them off, right? At least this year, and maybe going forward, I think your point is very salient. Let's count them off this year, right? Jokic getting in no matter what. Luka getting in no matter what. Giannis getting in no matter what. Embiid getting in no matter what. Shea getting in no matter what. Yeah, to your point, it does get a little bit hairy after that. Probably a guy like Wemby gets in, right?
Porzingis.
So
you just have all bigs.
So Porzingis would get in over Randall, which is a little annoying, right? So you do have all bigs. I mean, Shea and then Luka, and there aren't a lot of quick guards from other countries.
You put Porzingis at the 3.
Yeah, Kurt Rambis.
Fizdale. Shout out David Fizdale, great coach.
No, that was a Rambus thing, wasn't it? Though, like
Rambus said it, and then also Fizdale said it. They both were into that idea. Honestly, maybe it's a good idea. Who the hell knows? The league is so weird now.
I mean,
It's
it
actually
worked with
possible.
Lowry, but Lowry's quicker than Porzingis. It's like you wouldn't put Wembanyama at the 3, and he's quicker than Porzingis, right? So, but yeah, no, I think that would add. But my point is more that it would add some competitive flavor, or like maybe it's not the main event, but you could do a USA versus World event since there is going to be heavy overlap with All Star. Maybe that wouldn't matter. I've thought this, like, what if you had every college player play for their college team? You could do a Duke versus Kentucky game, right? That would be I mean, Kentucky's going to scrape that, honestly, at this point. But imagine if all the Nova guys get to play together and we get to watch.
So, like, isn't the fundamental thing though? Is ultimately like, if the guys don't care, it doesn't matter what this. I think this is what it gets down to, though. It's like we can sit here and talk about like how they can format or whatever. If guys don't care, they don't care.
Well, I mean, how do you make them care? How do you add a little more? Extra?
I don't think any of this matters. I think you just have to pay.
Like you said, it's incremental. We don't have that. We don't need them to play it like it's Game 7 of the finals. We just need them to your point, just like make basic rotation.
I don't think that they would. I don't think they'll care unless you put money in it. I really think that's it. Like, I mean, they even like there was that leak, right, to Sam Amick where they were like, "Oh, that's what they liked about the in-season tournaments, that there was money on the line." Look, it sounds stupid to people, but like, when you, as rich as they are, like $1 million, whatever, like maybe it moves the needle, right? It makes you want to play for something. Maybe it's that simple. Maybe it really is that simple. Dunk contest winner gets fucking $3 million. All-star team, whichever all-star team wins, they get fucking. Who knows? I don't know. The NBA has a shit ton of money. Like, let's say they want to give $1 million a piece, $2 million a piece. That's $24 million for whoever's on the winning team. That would probably get every more competitive. I think so. I think that would work. I think it would work. I think that's the only way to fix it. I really don't think any of this other stuff might present it in a cooler format for us. But I think that's just the novelty. Like, unless you put money in the game, I don't think they're going to care.
Do you think with money they would ever do a one-on-one tournament, even with money?
If you made the winner of the one-on-one tournament gets like 10 mil, yeah.
So like the cost of embarrassment or whatever, is that high? You think?
I just think one-on-one is just, you've got to incentivize it at that level because you want to get the best guys, right? Like nobody wants to go watch the one-on-one tournament and like it's like Jordan Clarkson versus Kelly Oubre.
I would want to watch Bones Highland versus Quickly.
Yeah, I would not. But like clearly, like it'd be like Clarkson and Oubre or something. Nobody wants to watch that. We want to see we want to see the stars go one-on-one, right? Like we want to see KD on Tatum or Luka on SGA. Luka, like whatever you want to see, all these
Brunson and Mitchell. I mean, imagine how much that would have made them this year.
Yeah, but like that's so you want all these, like you want to see these guys basically square up, right? And unless you incentivize that at a high level, I don't think you'll get the top guys because they make too much fucking money. Like if you make it a couple mil, yeah, that can get them to try an all-star game. But to be like, hey, do you want to take 3 hours out of your night on Saturday night to like play a one-on-one tournament? If you're like, it's $1 million for the winner, they're going to be like, no, I'm good. Like I'm actually losing money.
I disagree with that. $1 million is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. I don't think it's that much money to a guy like James Harden or Kawhi or KD or like these guys have made fucking 200+ million in their careers.
They also have high costs. There's taxes. There's everything.
What are you, their fucking accountant?
Well, Turtle. Why is Turtle spending $1,500 a month on cell phone calls? Get this guy an unlimited plan. No, what I'm saying is that, I mean, think about how much they lose in fines. Think about LeBron spends $2 million a year on fitness. Imagine if half of that he covered.
Fitness.
It's a lot, right? Nutrition. I mean,
steroids, HGH.
You're like, I mean, think about, we both watch tennis, right? Do you think it's a factor that Novak Djokovic has basically unlimited money to spend to improve himself versus Alcaraz beat him once and he's lost every time since because Alcaraz doesn't have that kind of capital to invest in himself, right?
To do HGH, the best HGH, correct.
Oh, you're not a Djokovic. Who's your guy? Are you a Nadal guy? You're a Federer guy? I feel like you're a Federer guy.
Yeah, I'm a Federer guy. But like, I'm not even saying that as a like. I'm saying, look, I'll just. It doesn't really matter. Like, I genuinely think all the best athletes in the world are doing performance enhancing drugs. Like, I just think that's a fact of life, and I don't care. I actually don't give a shit. If anything, I would like that they would. I think they should legalize that stuff and allow leagues to.
I mean, there's serious health consequences for things like steroids and all that. Like,
yeah, but I'm sure that there are newer drugs which have less of those insane side effects. And if they were monitored by medical professionals and you could do it legally, I would suggest that might be safer. Anyway, that's not my point. My point is, yes, I agree with you that like they have high cost expenses, but that's why you want to make it worth more? Like, because $1 million to them, to your point, $1 million to LeBron, he's just going to be like, doesn't do much for me. 10 million? Okay, now I can finance my fucking nutrition for 3 years. Like that, like you have to make it worth their time. I don't think and it's not just like there's a difference between winning, fucking a $50 hand and a $500 hand when you're playing with your friends or something, right? Like there's a different you want to win the big pot. So make it worth their time. Like you're not going to get the best fucking poker players in the world if you're like, well, this is for the fans, guys. So the pot's only like 10 grand. Nope, none of them are coming. They're going to be like, are you fucking kidding me? I'll just go to fucking AC this weekend and clean up on the fucking tables and I'm good to go. Like, I don't need to
You don't think Teddy KGB would play for 10 grand?
No, I don't. Actually, he would, but that's different. He's a fucking shark. But like, I'm sorry, John. I don't remember. But like, yeah, Johnny Chan's not gonna be like, oh shit, 10 grand. I gotta be there for that one. Like, no, you gotta have a big fucking pot. You gotta incentivize it. I think that's the only way. I really like look, you could scrap the fucking and today all they did was like the 3-point contest, I agree. Like I thought the Steph or Sabrina thing was awesome. Have that, you can expand on that even. I think that's probably something they should expand on. I think didn't Sabrina say after the game, she was like, after they did it, she was like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to do like a 2-on-2 of like me and Caitlin Clark versus Steph and somebody else. That would be cool. I agree. But like they can expand that. Fucking scrap the dunk contest. Make it the one-on-one tournament. Put the fucking prize at like $5-10 million. I don't know, something significant. And then you can still do the All-Star game thing. And that's probably the bigger problem when you really think about it, is that the All-Star game, if it sucked, I don't think anybody would care if the other stuff didn't suck, right? But the dunk contest is so bad. Like,
what do you think has changed though? Because, like, I think a lot of people point to the fact that LeBron never did one.
That's the biggest thing.
Jordan did one. Kobe, I believe, did one, right?
Kobe won. Michael Jordan won. Dominique won. Vince Carter won.
What do you think is, because those guys obviously made a lot of money.
I think it's LeBron.
So I do. LeBron made it not cool?
Yes.
I Dwight think still did it afterwards.
No, not just okay, but it's Dwight, who nobody likes.
At the time, he was one of the top 5 players in the NBA.
Yeah, he was one of the top 5 players in the NBA, but he was a fucking loser. And nobody
at that time he wasn't yet. The Superman thing, it did volume. He became a loser afterwards with the Stan Van Gundy stuff when he had those expectations.
Well, I guess I was just ahead of the curve because I always thought he was a fucking loser. But like I just okay, Dwight did it, but who's done it since him? Like, and Dwight kind of did it. I think he got not pressured, but like the league needed one of their top guys to do it, right? Because LeBron wouldn't do it. So it's like, okay, so Dwight, I mean, if you like to your point.
So do you think they gave him money under the table though? Or
no. I think they were like, look, the league obviously talks to these guys. It's not like they don't have any communication. They're probably like, look, like we really want you to do this. We're trying to make you a face of, and they were trying to make him a face of the league at that time, right? Like that was before he played LeBron in the playoffs that year. That was in 2000. It was at the 2009 All-Star break, which was a few months before they face off in the playoffs. But they were starting to like make Dwight really leaning into him as one of the faces of the league, right? That's his 5th or 6th year, I think, in the league at that point. So he was starting to come into his own, really getting like more of a national reputation. So I think they were pushing him to do it. And I think a few things have changed since then. One, League Pass is so prevalent right now. Like all these guys get exposure to the country, the fucking world, just because people can see them. That was not the case back then, right? Like you needed to do these kind of high profile events to get your weight up. And like so I don't think that urgency is there now. Like Ant Edwards does not need the dunk contest to build his brand and get more attention and whatever. So like that's part of it. I think another part of it is that I do think it matters LeBron didn't do it. He is the face of his generation. He is one of the greatest players of all time in the NBA, obviously. He's one of the greatest athletes probably in American sports history. So like him not doing it, one, it came across as like he didn't want to risk not winning it, but like it also makes it not that cool because you're like, well, if LeBron's not doing it, why should I do it? And it's not just LeBron, right? Like that entire like if you kind of look at the best players of his generation, I don't think Wade did it. KD's never done it. I mean, which is fine. KD's not a high flyer, but like it's kind of the point. Is like the best guys, I guess, maybe aren't like they're not working on their dunk packages all the time, and like that's not their thing. This is why the 3-point contest is the more popular event now because that's the thing that is like the premium skill in the NBA, right? The premium skill is shooting, and so everybody does it. The best guys do it, and you got guys from all different positions. They're all shooting threes, so the 3-point contest is the popular event. The dunk contest now is kind of like nobody wants to be known anymore as, oh, this guy's just a high flyer. Like it's nice, obviously, to have a high flyer, but nobody wants to be known for that shit anymore. Like shooting is the premium skill. So I think that's what's changed. I don't know what the hell exists. When did the 3-point shooting contest come in? That was like probably when they added the 3-point lines. That was probably like that was 1979. I think is the first year of the 3-point line.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
Bird did it.
Yeah,
I mean, those are iconic moments, right? Bird
went to the it's an iconic moment. It's an iconic moment, but it's not. It's an iconic moment, but it's not. It was never close to being the dunk contest. It was just not the dunk contest. And I think as time has gone on, and obviously now the league, everybody's shooting threes, right? We're shooting at record levels. That's changed. Like shooting is the thing. So on top of you don't need the exposure anymore, right? To the fact that a guy like Karl Anthony Towns would rather be in the 3-point contest than the dunk contest. So your best talents, like all of them at any position, really, that's the competition where they can really like, I don't know, put their, have their claim to fame, right? It's like didn't Cat win it a couple years ago, or did I make that up?
I'm not sure. I know he competed.
No, he won the skills competition. That's what it was. But he did compete. But like a big man winning the 3-point shooting contest, you know what I mean? Like it's going to happen at some point. But I think that's kind of that's where I'm at with it though. Is like it's not just guards, it's wings, it's bigs. Like everybody's in that competition now. The dunk contest just doesn't have that juice. Like think about the young players, the young stars in the NBA. Okay, just think about the youngest stars in the NBA, the guys that are next up or whatever. Right, that was a big point of conversation over the weekend. Is like, oh, who's going to be the face of the league after LeBron and Steph leave? How many of those guys would you say you're like, I want to see that dude in a dunk contest?
And Wemby, I think. Jalen Green probably doesn't qualify at this point. So
not Jaylen Brown.
God. Someone was
the worst D Brown dunk
game, and I was like, I don't really want to watch him in a meaningful game.
The worst D Brown imitation ever.
It'd be cool to see Wemby do it. Ant obviously has those kind of ups.
Okay, and how many of those? But how other than Ant, how many of those young guys are you like? This guy's a high flyer.
Scoot Henderson, not going to be the face of the league. It looks like at this point.
Yeah. So and that's like to me that's the difference. It's like you're not getting Vince Carter. Sure, whatever he became, and look, he had a great or really long and very good career.
I mean, he's hurt by the fact that he went to North Carolina as 6'6" guard and was crazy tops.
He's hurt by the fact he did not maximize his talent in the league. Like that, like we
But
can just
even beside, maybe he just wasn't MJ. Like that's who he's getting comparisons to, right? Like
yeah, but
Tracy
he's not.
McGrady, people
Is
like
he?
he didn't maximize because of injuries, but like he
He's
was
not even.
still pretty
Is Vince Carter a Hall of Famer on anything other than longevity?
I mean, his peak in New Jersey is pretty good.
Okay,
And Toronto too. They had
you
some good teams.
sound really convinced about this. You're making a very
I
convincing
mean,
argument.
all right. If he got to if instead of Ray Allen he got to go to the Celtics, his legacy might be looked a little bit differently. You know, like Ray Allen, and because when the Knicks were really good in the '90s, in the late '90s, the end of that kind of era, the Bucks and the Raptors were two teams I looked at, and it was like I would love to watch those games because I got to see Ray Allen and I got to see Vince Carter. You know?
Well, he went to Orlando after they made the championship.
That was
After they made the finals.
He had so many injury.
But that was like, but that's why, like, he was just injury prone guy. Whatever. We're so far afield here. The point is, though, like Vince Carter at that time was like, to your point, like that's what they were promoting.
He was like,
yeah. I mean, I don't know, he was bigger. I think, like he was, dude. They were like, they were talking about him like he's the next Jordan. He's the next Kobe. He's going to be competing with Kobe. Like that's kind of like the way they were selling him. You know, and T-Mac was a rising star, and you know, Kobe had won the dunk contest, I think, in '96. And Kobe, as soon as he came in the league, he was kind of like, holy shit, what is this? What is this guy? But all these guys did it. Like they all did it. And they were like if Ant did it, it would probably give it some juice because, you know, Ant has the potential and the talent to go on and become like one of the great shooting guards of his generation for sure. But also of all time.
I mean, people have drawn those comps to guys like Kobe.
Right. Right. So like if he did it, maybe you would give it some juice, but that's the level of guy you got to have there. Like, I'm sorry, like if these are the dudes you're gonna draw, and clearly they can't draw Ant, why the fuck wouldn't he have done it yet? You know what I mean? This is his what, 4th year in the league. Why, if he was gonna do it, he would have done it yet. He would have done it already. He's not gonna do it now. Like that, and I think that's kind of the thing is the dunk contest used to be for these, not all the time, but like that's what made it, I'm sure, awesome when they like Jordan and Wilkins were going at it. You know, in the 80s is like Jordan was like the young upcoming star, and he's going at the king, right? Like the dunk king with Dominique Wilkins. And it was like a rite of passage. Which sounds stupid, but like very specifically for like wing players, right? This was like the wing future stars. Like this was like the thing you did. And none of them do it now. Tatum has not done it. Jaylen Brown finally did it. And he's not even in the fucking ballpark compared to like what the guys we're talking about here. Ant's never done it. He's never gonna do it. Luka would be hilarious to watch in a dunk contest, especially because I don't know how sober he was the entire weekend. So like I don't know that it just none of these guys either catch my fancy as like they have the skill set for it, or they're not fucking interested.
And I mean, to your point, the archetype for the wing, like OG Anunoby, awesome player. Maybe the archetype wing that isn't a star, not a high flyer, right? I mean, you there were players who weren't that great who competed in the dunk contest, but that 6'8", 6'10" type of wing had a lot of cachet, even if they couldn't shoot. That's just not a thing now. But we talked about the All-Star game a lot. Was there anything else you wanted to say on it, or?
No, I actually did not anticipate talking about the All-Star game this much because I don't think I just don't think it's fixable, and it is what it is. That's what I think.
I did want to get to this is something that was brought up. So Milwaukee is a very interesting situation right now. They were a team that was doing quite well, not the hardest schedule, great offense, poor defense. They fired their coach, and it's gotten even worse. We can debate how much of that is on Doc versus roster construction. But there's a reason they made that Damian Lillard trade is because between Giannis' comments and his contract situation, it is coming to a bit of a head there. And Dame was their stopgap. We'll see how they do. Not stopgap. He was their move to appease Giannis. And Giannis had a quote today where he said, he'd ride or die for Dame, blah, blah, blah. But the Knicks have a player a lot like Damian Lillard who's better and younger. Of course, I'm talking about Deuce McBride. But do you think, we've talked a lot about how the Knicks are trying to save their cachet or their stock of picks and assets for, they've given up a lot of assets now, right? They give up all of their young guys that are really interesting pieces. We'll see.
Wow.
What happens with
Jericho Sim slander.
Should be Deuce McBride slander. Do you think Giannis is at this point a reasonable target for the Knicks, especially if they flame out and don't get past the second round?
No. I think he'd give it one more year.
So what is his contract? So I think he's after next year he's a free agent, right?
No, he's on an extension. I can look it up right now. I think he's locked in through. I mean, look, I don't even need to make it up. I can literally just tell you in about 3 seconds once my page loads here. He's locked in through 2027 now. So he has a player option for 2027-28, so he can get out of the contract at the end of the 2026-27 season.
That's basically the same situation Donovan Mitchell was in Utah.
I think it's a little bit different.
Could you expand? I mean, Donovan Mitchell was playing with a Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, but guys like Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell get traded all the time in NBA history. All the time they get traded. Guys like Giannis don't get traded. Like OKC did not trade KD, right? Fucking the Cavs the first time around, they didn't trade LeBron. They didn't trade LeBron either time.
Melo got traded.
Yeah. Yep, he did.
Well, he's top 5 player at that time.
He's not. He was never an MVP candidate.
A scoring title.
He has one fucking scoring title. Get out of here. No, like LeBron, like these guys don't get traded unless they really like. I could see, let's say they flame out this year, they flame out next year. Okay, so he's got 2 years left in his contract. I would like to think anyway, that assuming his effort does not wane, that he could go into the front office next summer, in summer of 2025, and be like, look, this team is capped out. We have no assets. There's nothing for us to do. The coach sucks. I have won us a championship. I have given you everything I have. I would like to maximize the back end of my prime. If you can accommodate me to go to one of these 5 fucking teams and find a trade that is the best trade that you can possibly make for me, I would appreciate that. Like, I think that might be possible, but I do not think, like, they will not independently choose to trade Giannis because nobody ever does. They never do. Like, do you think Dallas will ever trade Luka unless he's like, I need to get the fuck out of here, and if you don't trade me, I will walk? Would they trade him? And even Melo, to your point about Melo, Denver probably wouldn't have traded him if they offered him the extension. If he signs the extension, they were not planning on trading him. He did not sign the extension because in his brain he thought they're now moving into like rebuilding and whatever. So
Shaq, Lakers traded Shaq, who was still at that time, in my opinion, the best player on the team.
But they didn't want to give him his next contract. They didn't trust his health. It was also the weird thing with Kobe, correct? Because Kobe was like, me or Shaq. Like, if you keep Shaq, I don't want to be here. And it was like, okay, well, we're going to bet on the, what was he, 24 or something then? 24-year-old over the 33-year-old center who, chooses to use the regular season to play himself into shape every year. Like, and who wants to get a new fucking $35 million a year contract. Like, which, by the way, the end of that Shaq contract did end up being an albatross. So they were definitely right about that part of it. But like, I don't know. I don't think that Giannis is ever getting traded unless he literally requests it. And the earliest it would happen is 2 years from now. I don't think they'll do it this summer when he has 3 years left in his contract and they just traded for Dame.
Because I mean, look, when he requested this summer, if he sees that we got the second round, let's say the Knicks make the Eastern Conference Finals, and he's like, hold on, I wanted Dame here because I wanted a guard I could play with who could pull from anywhere, who can score, who can take the scoring load off of me. There's a guy who actually tries on defense who's not 35 years old in, by the way, a place that he has said that he loves to play in, on a team that is really well developed. It doesn't have the depth issues that Milwaukee does. I mean, can you objectively say that like what's a better spot for Giannis right now, objectively in a vacuum? Do you think he would be better off in New York, assuming we got rid of Randall and Mitch, whatever? Like, let's say those are the main pieces. He's better off playing in New York next to OG, probably a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein and Brunson, or do you think he's better off in Milwaukee with Dame and Crickets?
No, he'd be better off here, but I also, this is just me, I don't think he is going to go after one season of, things didn't work out. And I look, obviously they've only won one championship. So if you want to say every year they don't win a championship is like a failure or something, sure, I get that. But this would constitute like, there were mitigating circumstances in other scenarios. There's no real mitigating circumstance here aside from the fact that the team is old and maybe Dame is not as
they
good
have
as
no way to get better though. Like, what's going to change between this offseason and next offseason?
Nothing. I don't think
So why
players
wouldn't he
think
anticipate
I
it?
don't think players think this rationally, dude. I don't think he's gonna be like, oh well, I gave it a good try this year, but doesn't look like anything's gonna happen, so that's it. Like I gotta get out of here. Like they think they're capable of being the difference, right? So he can just look at it and be like, oh, well, I'll be better next year. And the front office said they were gonna do these things, so they will do these things and we'll be better. Like that's what I think will happen. I just don't see a scenario where a year after they trade for Dame, which more or less they did to ensure that he re-signed with Milwaukee, like I don't see that playing out that way. I just don't. And if he was going to ask for a trade, like I don't know, he could have done it sooner than when he did.
Yeah, but I mean, I think he was close to that last offseason. They traded for Dame, and it didn't work out. I mean, it doesn't look like it's working out right now.
I don't think he was that close last offseason.
Maybe.
I mean, he signed the extension literally the second they traded for Dame. He signed the extension. To me, that is not something you do if you're not willing to give that real runway.
Well,
like,
let's say you're going to break up with. Let's say you're unhappy in a relationship, and you hint to the other person that, hey, you need to step up your game, and the other person goes out of their way to do something big time, and it still isn't enough. That's even more of a sign that, hey, we should see other people.
I'm not sure I understand this analogy right now.
The analogy is that the point is that, like, last offseason, maybe to your point, he wasn't close to leaving. So he said, do what you can. Show me that you want me here. They did something for that, and even that wasn't enough. Then it's like, well, hold on. If that's the best you got, and now you can't do anything else, maybe the cards are on the table now, even more so than they might have been before.
Yeah, but I think you stay together for the kids for a little bit longer.
What kids? That's a good point. Jordan Nora? You guys stay together for Jordan Nora?
No, you stay together because Dame, like, they respect each other pretty obviously to me as players. So Dame and I think it's a 2-year thing. Like they have to give it 2 years. I think if Giannis went in and was like, I want out this summer, they'd be like, go fuck yourself. Like, we'll talk about this next year. We're not doing it right now. Like there's no reason for them to do it because they'll be like, we still have you and Dame under contract for 3 more seasons. We believe that we can win a championship. We believe in you so much we can win a championship that we're not even going to listen to your desire, like what you want to do.
Or deteriorating?
I think he definitely is. But again, like that is not how they're going to view it because you don't trade guys like this. You don't trade MVP players because you don't get them that often. They're not guaranteed. You don't like how many MVP players get drafted, and I mean legit, not like, oh, they were in the conversation one year. I'm saying guys that actually fucking win MVP. How many of those guys get drafted in a decade? 3, 4? Like it's not a lot. And you have Giannis has won 2. He's won a championship. He's won a defensive player of the year. He has literally done. There's not the only thing he has not done on an individual level and on a team level at this point. That you can do as a player in the NBA is win Rookie of the Year. That's it. He's done everything else. He has every other accolade. Like guys like that, you don't trade them. When you have them, you don't trade them. Like, and if you do trade them, it's because they put in the years of service to you, and they are looking to get out, and they're getting close to a point in their contract where you could lose control of the situation. So I don't see this as that at all. This is just not even close to that. And I think he's going to give them time because he just strikes me as somebody who is, I don't want to say he's loyal, but he is like, he just strikes me as somebody who is a little bit more willing to give things time and believes in like the process and all that type of shit. I think he will have respected that the Bucks risked everything they did risk to get Dame. And they've shown in the past, to be fair to them, they got Drew Holiday, which won them a championship. They've gotten like they've put it all on the line to put pieces around Giannis. Now, I'm not saying they've done the best job possible. Obviously, that's not true, but they've put in everything to do right by him. I think he'll respect that, and I don't think he would ask out after a year of just playing with Dame. I think it'll take time.
These bros ain't loyal, man. But I mean, is there who at this point is the person you think the Knicks would? I mean, I think we all think they're going to make a trade this summer. Do you think it is another OG type? Do you think they go for a guy like Mikal Bridges, who's not a star, but they believe in Brunson? Do you think I don't think Embiid's getting. I actually think there's a better chance Giannis gets traded than Embiid. Don't think Luka Doncic is getting traded. Although I think I disagree with a lot of Knicks fans where I'm like, yeah, if we can get Luka Doncic. It didn't work with Brunson the first time, but they made it Western Conference Finals. So did it really not work? Brunson is also as much as we clown Luka for not, maybe adapting as much as he could have to Brunson and Porzingis. Porzingis was hurt. Brunson has improved a lot. Let's not minimize that, right? He's become a much better player. So I don't think it would be the same. And they still made a Western Conference Finals. So, but I also don't think Luka's getting traded. I think, they're keeping it together. We did a whole pod on this. Who is the star then? Because it looks like they're going to make a star trade this summer. Who is it? Mitchell? I don't think Mitchell's going anywhere either. They're really good right now. So,
I mean, they are really good. And I tend to agree. I actually don't. I feel like all the Mitchell chatter is kind of like, it feels like something that was true a year ago, maybe, or 2 years ago, when he was obviously, all the rumors are flying about the Knicks trading for him. I feel like if he had his druthers, would he like to be in New York? Sure. Yeah, he'd probably like to be in New York. Do I think that Donovan Mitchell at the age of 26, 27, whatever the fuck he is so hell-bent on getting to New York that he doesn't care that the Cavs are really good and have the chance to compete for a championship? And that's matters.
The Brooklyn stuff, by the way, is crazy to me.
It's not real. There's no way that's real. He wants to be in New York so badly. He's going to force his way out of Cleveland to go play with McCall fucking Bridges. Give me a break, dude. That's never going to happen.
What about Cam Thomas?
God. Yeah, they need more Cam Thomas. That'll fix everything. No, I don't know. I agree with you. So I agree with you. It's not Mitchell. I don't know who it is, but we never know who it is. We never know. And somebody gets traded. It happens every year, every summer, every whatever. This is how the NBA works. Guys get traded, and you're like, wait, what? Why did that happen? When did this happen? Why is this team doing this? When Donovan Mitchell got traded, I mean, I wasn't necessarily shocked, but because obviously once Rudy Gobert gets traded, you're like, okay, well, there we go.
Well, that was the whole Windhorst thing, right? They traded Royce O'Neal. He was the guy that was and then they traded Rudy the next day, and then later that summer the Mitchell trade happens. But that didn't come out of nowhere until Windhorst was so
connecting the dots. But yeah, these things tend to just.
I don't think he was just connecting the dots. I think he had info, but
no, he definitely knew. I don't know. It could be Embiid for all I fucking know, man. I still think that's 100% there. That's. I don't. I think.
But to your point, that's a guy who's won MVP. Hasn't had the playoff success of Giannis, but you have a big. They have a MVP level big when healthy, next to a really really good shooting guard in Maxey. I think he is. I think Brunson's a better player, but Maxey's at that level. Why would they break that up, right? If you don't want to break up Dame and Giannis,
I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying that, but this is it can have one, Embiid has less time on his contract, which whatever. He's also more injury prone, which might be a concern for Daryl Morey. He like again, and because he has less time in his contract, like this is the optimal. This would be the optimal time to trade him if you're going to eventually trade him anyways, because he has 2 years left in his contract, right? So he's not an expiring contract. A team trading for him is going to be like, okay, well, we get 2 years of him guaranteed. That's a big deal. Like that stuff matters. But like I don't know that Embiid's going to get traded. I mean, and even if he requests a trade, we've seen what Daryl Morey will do, right? He will drag it on. He has no problem forcing a bad situation, carrying a bad situation into the season. Like he doesn't mind those things. So I don't know. It doesn't need to be him. Maybe it's Booker. Maybe I don't know. But I know that at some point
that Booker, I think, has 4 years on his deal after this season.
3, I think. I might.
No, he's got his contract extension kicks in this summer, and he's under contract, no player option until 27, 28. So
okay, so that's 4 years. Yeah, so maybe I don't know. I'm just saying, like, and even with Booker, I've said this. I don't think he's going to ask out until 2025. Maybe the next plan is to wait until 2025. Maybe they're going to do another round of.
But if that's the case, that seems like a precarious situation because Randall and Brunson are both potentially up for extensions at that point, right? Brunson can opt out after next year. Randall, I think, is a true free agent right after next year.
Yes.
So this would be the summer to make that move, and if that move just isn't there, that puts them in a difficult situation, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So given that, I mean, do you have to pivot to a different strategy? Can you wait till 2025? I mean, I don't think either of them, like, I don't know what they can offer. They can offer Brunson an extension this summer, right?
They can offer both guys an extension this summer.
Yeah, but both would stand to make more money. Certainly Brunson would because they can only offer someone an extension.
Right? Brunson's not going to extend. Randall might extend. Brunson won't extend.
And the question is, does it worth it to? I mean, do you think the star trade is kind of out as a strategy at this point? Given what we talked about, it doesn't seem like any of these guys are like.
Because I don't agree with you. I think guys ask out all the time and they find a way to get out. I just don't think it'll be honest. Like you can fucking sit here and tell me 7,000 reasonable things about Dame looks washed. Dame is 75 years old. Brook Lopez is 45. Middleton looks like he can't walk half the time. And all those things I agree with. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't think he's asking out this summer. I don't think they're going to trade him.
What I'm
but
saying
there are guys. I think there are guys that could ask out. Like, do I think Mitchell is going to ask out? No, I don't know. I don't think he will. I actually think they're playing really well. I think if they made like even a second round or conference finals, I think he would extend and he would stay and he'd be like, all right, even if I want to get traded, I can figure that out down the line. But right now I'm happy here, so I'll do that. But I also don't think it's unreasonable if they lost in the first round and he's like, fuck this. Like I think we
both said Mitchell may not be the right star at this point where the team is, right? For this team.
But that's a different argument. I'm not arguing my beliefs. I'm saying if they still think we can trade for a star and that's their ultimate goal, and let's say Mitchell is a guy they're still comfortable, like we can think what we want. And obviously they had some reservations about trading for Mitchell, but they also did want to trade for Mitchell. Like they liked Donovan Mitchell. They wanted him. They wanted to pair him
before Brunson became an all-NBA player, but yeah.
But I think maybe they. I think it's crazy to believe that they 100% believed he could get to where he is right now. But I think they were pretty confident he'd be really, really good. Like I doubt that Brunson being as good as he is now makes them change. Like, oh well, now we can't have Donovan Mitchell. I don't buy that.
The point I'm making is, I think we can all agree. Like,
are you just trying to annoy me?
If they have to re-sign Brunson next year,
are you just trying to annoy me?
Yes, that's what I'm here for. If Brunson is a free agent and Randall's a free agent, right? But especially Brunson, it seems like that would be more difficult to make a trade during that time. Whereas this summer, that seems like now you can get everyone in place at that point before Brunson's contract kicks in, right? Before you have to sign him, before you're paying. I mean, we can talk about. So is that a incorrect assumption to say that like it kind of has to be this summer?
I would assume it's an incorrect assumption just because there's always ways around things. Like, and it's also important to note that they could trade for a star and not have to give up Randall or Brunson. So like maybe they feel a lower level.
If you sign Randall, that's interesting. If you sign Randall and Brunson and you're gonna have to re-sign Hartenstein, You probably still have Mitch on contract. You can trade him in that trade. Doesn't like the math. If Brunson's making $40 million a year, the math of adding a star is going to be
it's
more
definitely a lot
difficult. And you have
harder.
the uncertainty of whether he resigns at all, right?
It's definitely a lot harder. But I think that, let's say Randall plays well in the playoffs and Brunson plays well in the playoffs, but the Knicks lose in the second round. Who cares? Whatever, right? But now they're like, okay, well, we saw Randall play well in the playoffs, so this is no longer like, oh my god, like, let's see if Randall has it. Like, they know, okay, all right, he figured it out, he's gotten it together, great. They could reasonably look at this team and just be like, well, we don't actually need another super, like, we don't necessarily need the caliber of player
too.
Well, what I'm saying is they could look at this team and be like, well, we don't necessarily need the caliber of player we thought. Like, okay, maybe we did have reservations about pairing Donovan Mitchell with Jalen Brunson at one point in time. But if we're getting this version of Randall and we have OG, who, by the way, is going to get a new contract this summer. And if you like now, okay, well, we have this Bogdanovich contract. We have this Mitchell Robinson contract. That basically gets you, that is Donovan Mitchell money right there. Like, that's it. Like, you can, and there are other guys you can, like, Josh Hart is another guy they have. DiVincenzo, maybe. Like, they have got those, that's 4 guys right there under contract for next season that they could deal. And the math can work how the math works, but they can get to a star number. Now, can they get to Giannis money? Can they get Giannis? I don't think so. I don't think Giannis is going to ask out. Can I get them Joel Embiid? I don't know. I don't particularly want Joel Embiid, but I do think that he might be on the move this summer. I don't know. Like, it's possible. I definitely think it's possible. Like, again, guys, like Paul George has not signed an extension yet. Maybe they want Paul George again. They wanted Paul George last summer. They were really interested in him. Maybe they could look at this team and be like, you know what? If we get Paul George, we can move DiVincenzo back to the bench. And now we have the best defensive wing pairing in the league. We have great shooting. We've added a much superior offensive player on the wing to anybody we have on the wing. Like, maybe that's what they do. Like, there's just so many, there's always so much opportunity in the NBA. Or, to your point, maybe they look at it and they're like, you know what? Yeah, we lost in the second round, but because Randall played well and we know what Brunson does, we just think we need to keep working on the margins of this roster, commit to these 2 guys, and that gives us a 4, 5, 6 year window if we just keep patient and keep trying to improve on those margins, right? Like, maybe they're like, you know what? Bogdanovich, not athletic enough. Let's take a shot on a younger guy. Let's attach one of our protected first to Bogdanovich for fucking Keldon. Yeah, whatever. Keldon. I mean, I was just saying Keldon Johnson, just because the contract math would work. But, like, whatever. The point being is, I think there are ways they can go about it. And look, I don't believe this. I don't think he's the guy they should go for. And I don't think that they will be able to make this trade because I don't think this team would trade with us. But, like, Mikal Bridges, maybe they look at him and they're like, you know what? That's what we need. The power of friendship. Let's bring him in.
Well, that would also be the best defensive wing pairing in the NBA, right? So,
I don't know.
You don't think he's a good defender?
He hasn't played good defense in a while now. And I always thought he was an overrated defender. He's not a lockdown guy. He's like a good team defender, but I don't even think he's ever been as impactful as, like,
OG, obviously. But
yeah, but OG's an awesome. He's just an all-around great defender. I think McCall he's a really good team defender who has never locked up a premium player ever in his life.
But you still, at that point, you'd have 2 6'7" plus guys with 7-foot wingspans with good team defense, and one of them is lockdown, right? But anyway, to your point, yeah, I mean, I think that there are those. So that's what I'm kind of thinking is, like, do they need? I actually think that there's a good chance they are just going to stay on the margins, because I don't think that that trade that you'd hope is there this summer is going to be there. But, like, maybe it's the Precious Achuas and the OG Anunobis and the Dante DiVincenzos you made along the way that are like, I mean, Dante DiVincenzo changes the calculus a little bit. Let's see how he does in the playoffs. But if this is a guy who can give you 20 pretty consistently while not taking much away on defense, actually being a pretty solid defender, I think that's what's going to happen. Now, does that result in a championship? I don't know. It depends on really how great Brunson is, and if Randall can hit 75 to 80% of his. But my prediction is I don't think a star trade is happening, and I also just don't think it's worth it if you don't get a guy like Giannis. That's me. I'm not out on an Embiid trade. I'd be really excited if they did it, but the injuries and all that considering we already have a really good, initiator. I mean, Embiid has played well with ball dominant guards. It's not a him thing, but I mean, my prediction I think is that they continue to make moves on the edges. I don't know what they use that Bogdanovich contract for, but probably more of a really good. I mean, maybe a guy like Lowry's. I mean, that's another thing. Utah decided to tank. Maybe that accelerates things for Lowry Marketing. He's like, I'm 26. I'm an All NBA caliber player.
I thought you meant Mike Lowry for a second.
Mike Lowry, not Kyle Lowry, of course.
Mike Lowry. I swear, Zach probably listens to this podcast. He's like, "What the fuck are they talking about? What are they referencing?" I haven't.
Is that movie older than Zach?
Has to be. Yeah, Zach just turned 21.
Yeah, it's wow. Jesus, happy birthday, Zach.
Yeah, but yeah, I am less convinced they're sold on any particular path. Like, do I think, again, if they had their druthers, do I think they want a star? Sure. Like every fucking team wants a star, or they're all on the hunt for stars, which is always why, like, I've laughed when people are like, all they care about is stars. I'm like, let me let you in on a little secret. That's every front office in the NBA. They all care about stars. The
other option is, like, I mean, if Miami is in a precarious situation.
I think it could be Butler. I'll throw that out there. I really think it could be Butler because
talking about Butler. But
I know you were talking. I know you weren't. You were probably talking about Bam. But I will say why.
You don't think they'll trade Bam?
No, I don't think they'll trade Bam. He's young. They trade Butler. Like, that's who you trade. Like, if Miami finally, hopefully, for the love of fucking God, they just fucking fade away this year in the playoffs, and maybe Jimmy doesn't look great, and they're like, you know what? He's always hurt. He's always missing like 15, 20, 25 games in a season. We need to, and Bam is in his prime, and we need to, like, commit to building around and with him, whatever. I think the Knicks could look at Jimmy, and if they really believe, like, we are that close, we are so close, we're a piece away, I could see them doing it. Just because, like, when I, like, think of it this way.
Randall is good in the playoffs. Jimmy could be the third option, which takes the pressure.
And think of this, too. Like, you know how, like, when Josh Hart plays well, when he's good, he, like, makes this team fucking awesome. Like, Jimmy is the star version of Josh Hart. Like, he is the star version of Josh Hart. And I think they could reasonably look at it and be like, well, what if we just get, like, what if we just do that? Like, and he's just that guy way more consistently. Plus, we know he's a playoff performer. Like,
would Pat Riley trade with New York? That's the other question, right?
So, Pat Riley can fucking jump in the Atlantic Ocean. Fucking vampire fuck.
And the other question is Jimmy Butler a Tibbs guy?
Yeah, of course. Who? How could we know? No, I mean, I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's, like, to your point. I don't think Riley would. He definitely wouldn't want to trade with New York, right? That's what we I think that's safe to say. But I don't think it's not the craziest thing that could have. Like, if you woke up one day and was like, oh, the Knicks have traded for Jimmy Butler, would you be like, holy shit, how could this happen? I wouldn't. I'd be like, it's pretty wild. But I kind of get it. I don't know. But you are right. There is no, like, clear cut, oh, this is 100% the guy that's going to be available. This is the guy that makes sense for them. And that's what makes it difficult. And that it should be, because they're good now. This is not like the 2018-19 Knicks where we're just like, oh my God, any star, please come here and save us. No, now we have to really consider, like, okay, well, how does this guy fit with Brunson? How does he make sense for us on this timeline? Like, we actually have something to build around and to consider and weigh when we're talking about this stuff, which we didn't have in the past, where we're just like, do you think this guy fits next to Frank Ntilikina? Like, who cares? Are we sure we care? It's different now. So this is the part that is hard, and this is the part that's challenging, because it's supposed to be, because it's harder to get from where the Knicks are to a championship contender. I mean, I think they kind of already are a contender, but to win a championship than it is to get from laughing stock to respectability. That's not the hardest part of it. It's not easy, but it's not the hardest part. The hardest part is this, right? Finding the guys that put you over the top. That's always the hardest part. That's why, and
it goes even if you have flexibility, right? So
yeah, and look, like, we can sit here and talk about like Jokic, right? Amazing generational player. Giannis, amazing generational player. Like, look at how long it took those front offices to find the right pieces and how many and they missed, right? They missed on moves and whatever. How long it took them to get the right pieces around those guys to win a championship. You look at a guy like KD, like he literally left OKC. They never won a championship with him. And he was certainly an
played next
amazing
to
player.
future MVPs and a Defensive Player of the Year, right?
Right. And it
Steven
didn't happen.
Adams.
Yeah. And Steven Adams. And it
No,
just
Steven Adams came back in the Harden trade, but yeah, like at that one time they had all three of those guys and Ibaka, right?
It's still crazy that happened. They never won a championship. But like, yeah, like so it's not easy. And so, even when you have those caliber of players, right? So I think that it's okay to wonder, like, it's like, well, who is the guy? Who is the guy? Where's the guy? What's he going to cost? Does that make sense? Like, my cards on the table, I don't think the Embiid thing makes sense, but I'll say this, like, after seeing how they hit on the OG trade, like, I'm pretty confident. Like, I feel like if they traded for Joel Embiid and they gave up a package that I didn't necessarily agree with or love or think was too much, I would probably still come out at the end of it and be like, well, they've just earned the benefit of the doubt. And I'll just see how it works, because that's what they've done so far is they've won on their big bets. But I guess we'll see. I mean, there's nothing else we can do. But I do get where you're coming from. Like, I don't know who the guy is. I don't think it's clear cut. I do think it could be Donovan Mitchell, though. I do think there's a chance.
Do you think the Lowry Markkanen stuff is gone now, or
I don't know. That one's weird to me. I also am not sure where he fits now. But I guess are you playing him at the 5 in New York?
I would play OG at the 2. He doesn't have the ball handling for it, but Brunson is so good, and Randall's a pretty good ball handler. I mean, a lineup of Brunson, OG, Lowry, Randall, and iHeart or Mitch, that would be pretty fucking good. I mean, there'd be luxury tax up the ass, especially after OG gets paid. But I mean, the other thing is, do you have to give out? Because if you keep Randall, then the fit with Lowry becomes a little bit. And I'm not sure at this point I would prefer Lowry or Randall. I have a feeling I might, but that's the other guy I think, especially because he can't be thrilled about what Utah is doing. He's punting on the season,
and they're not really punting, right?
I mean, they were like what a fringe playoff team, and now they traded away good players to like get picks, which is fine. But Markkanen might be like, hey, I want to win. I'm really good, and it's going to take a few years for that to be a thing here.
But you just want to see them make moves around you, right? Like, so.
Yeah, so with Markkanen, I think it's very easy to fit him. I think it's the same reasons we all liked. Do you move OG to the 2? That becomes tough. But it's really the contracts, because at that point, Markkanen's making good money. You have to pay OG probably $35-40 million. Randall and Brunson will be up for extension, but I think that works. And is that a star trade? It's not the MVP, but I think that makes them a contender, right? So I'm still pretty curious about that. And I mean, Markkanen's what, 26 now? Like,
Markkanen is 26. Yeah.
I don't know that he wants to spend the rest of his career in Utah no matter what. And like, yeah, you can say Danny Ainge is making good moves, but who are they going to get to play with him? Like, is he going to win anything in Utah? I don't know if he asks out, but I'm sure like he would be amenable. And I don't know that they have a real great path forward right now. Despite having a lot of assets, and I'm not criticizing Danny Ainge, it is what it is.
I mean, it's always about the money, though, right? Like, because I think at the end of the day, he'd probably be like, okay, well, let me lock in the money, and then I can worry about getting traded. Like, if he's happy to get the money and Utah's happy to give him the money, I think that probably buys them some time, right? Because he'll be like, okay, well, they paid me. I'm still 26. I'll probably still be awesome when I'm 28. They seem like, and like, to your point, like, I agree they didn't do anything drastic to try to win, but they also didn't like punt. Like they traded Olynyk, who they weren't going to keep. Fine, whatever. But like, they didn't trade Clarkson. They didn't trade Sexton. they still have talent. They have assets. Like I think he would probably just be like, okay, I'll take the money and I'll give them time to figure it out. Maybe they even talk about it. Like where he's like, hey, look, like I'm signing this contract. I'm happy to be here as long as we're trying to make moves, but we really need to be a lot more competitive within the next couple of seasons. And if not,
Yeah,
like
but I mean,
I would want to leave.
he has got 1 year left on his contract. Next year's he's an unrestricted free agent the year after.
Utah can still give him the most money though.
So he's
That's
got
kind of
they can give him the most money, but he's going to get paid no matter what, right?
he is, but there's that 5th year is nice. The max races they can give you versus the 5% flat that you get out in the market. Plus, we already know like what good team has cap space. That's the other problem. Is like if his point is I want to be competitive, which you're right, like he's at an age where that 100% could start being like the primary thing on his mind. But like it makes sense still to sign the contract and then worry about it later because good teams never have cap space. I mean, aside from the Sixers this summer and their big master plan of cap space, which okay, cool. Like that doesn't happen. So, you know, I still think you just take the money. I think it's a safe bet. I actually gone back and forth on this, but like I think he probably just ends up staying in Utah, like getting an extension, staying there for a couple years. Because I just don't know. Like I think to trade him, Utah doesn't. They're not going to be like, oh, give us more picks, right? They have so many fucking picks they don't know what to do with. They're going to be like, we no. If we're trading Markkanen, we want a similar caliber of talent, maybe at a different position or whatever. That's a really hard trade to nail down. It is. It's very difficult. I don't know. I just don't know how they do it.
Randall is similar level of talent, but
He's older.
Only a couple of years, right?
He's older. Same contract situation we're talking about. Like I don't know if Danny Ainge wants to commit to Julius Randle. I don't know. There's whole other factors there. It's really look like if Randle has a bad playoffs. Why would anybody do that trade?
Yeah,
why would?
fair.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Shifting gears because I was talking with Keith Kill and Tyrese a little bit about this on Twitter. So Precious Achiuwa has blown away. Maybe that's overstating it, but he's been much better than we expected. Certainly after his first few games. It does look like if the Knicks really do get to full health, he would be an odd man out in that rotation along with Deuce. One, do you think they'll find a way to get him minutes even this year? Even when Mitch comes back and all that. And two, he is a free agent this year, a restricted free agent, but his qualifying offer is $6.5 million. Tyrese said that he doesn't expect him to be a part of our plans. The Knicks have, picks this year or whatever. They'll likely want to bring in young guys. What do you think happens with Precious now? Because he's not really good. And I know you've been a big fan.
I think they're going to keep him. I really like. I hate saying this because I love Mitch, and I'm like the king of, keep your guys. It matters having guys that have developed and come through the organization, all that stuff. But I think Precious has been really good for them. And he's not doing things that I'm like, this is so unsustainable, right? This is not like some random 3-point shooting hot streak or something that he's on. Like everything he's doing right now, I'm like, I don't see why you would not be able to do this. Hartenstein, if they keep him, I think they want to keep Precious. The reporting was that like Precious was kind of like insurance for them in case Hartenstein left. But then you watch how we're playing without Mitch and with Hartenstein, and I just kind of think you're like, I think Mitch might end. I think Mitch ends up getting traded. That's sadly what I think, because he's always going to be a clunky fit offensively next to Randall, especially the things he doesn't do at all. Like he's just it'd be wrong to even say he's terrible at them. He just doesn't do them. I don't know. He's not a well-rounded player. That's probably the best way to put it. He's not a well-rounded player. Hartenstein is really well-rounded, even if they're on aggregate roughly the same level of center. The fact that Hartenstein doesn't leave really anything off the table matters. And Precious has he's obviously not at the level that Mitch has shown or that Hartenstein has shown, but he's been pretty damn good for a backup. He can play the 4, he can play the 5, depending on the matchups. Like, there's a lot there to like. I would keep him, and I think it ends up like I think they keep him. I'm not saying they're going to trade Mitch. Like I think they keep him because they can. He'll be cheap, and he's a restricted free agent, so they have every bit of leverage here. But I don't think that means that Mitch is going to get traded this offseason, 100%. But I'd be surprised if they don't at least kick the tires. I'd be surprised if his name isn't at least out there. I really like, assuming, and I am assuming this, that they keep Hartenstein. If they keep Hartenstein, yeah, it's like I think that's like almost the nail in the coffin for Mitch as far as his longevity is in it.
And it'll be expensive to keep Hartenstein, you'd have to think at this point, right? He'll probably get Mitch's contract.
He will. I do kind of think his injury helps us weirdly. And I also think the timing of the OG trade helps us with regard to like how he's perceived. Like, because to me, I feel like Knicks fans know he's really good. And I think even general fans know he's good. But I don't think there's an appreciation for how good outside of the people that watch him every single game, right? Like, I don't think Thunder fans are like, oh my God, look, we got to go break the bank for fucking Hartenstein this summer. And it's hard to justify
They
breaking
should, by the way. But
yeah, they should, but fuck them. And who knows? Maybe Hartenstein's like, why am I don't want to leave New York to go to fucking Oklahoma City.
Well, his wife now or fiance, I don't know. They're
married, right? I think they're married.
Yeah, his significant other is a model.
Unless you're suggesting that they're having a child out of wedlock, which is a crime, as far as I'm concerned. No, I'm joking, obviously.
I am offended. Yeah, I mean, but she's a model, right? So that
living in sin. They're living in sin.
So it'd be one thing if Miami tried to sign him, which they wouldn't, but it's different if it's Oklahoma City, right? So, or San Antonio or whoever. I mean, I think he'd be awesome in San Antonio too. That's a team that should be looking at him. But I mean, can you imagine if he was used like Diallo? He'd be really good there. But yeah, do you want to move to San Antonio? I mean, that's another factor. His family is obviously comfortable here. So
yeah. So yeah, I think. Unfortunately, I just keep coming. Like, this is where I've been. The more I watch Precious, like, the more I'm just like, I kind of feel like Mitch is on his way out within the next 6, 7, 8, however many months.
And it's a pretty tradable contract, right? It's 3 years left after, or
two
years left after the season, 15 mil. So good chunk. If you like, but you should like Mitchell Robinson. If you're, I could see Detroit being interested, right? I mean, they've drafted a million bigs.
God knows they need another.
Well, none of them are good. I mean, Jalen Duren, I think, still has potential. I would like to victory lap. A lot of people saying we should.
Dude, his contract's even better than that. Like, it's 14.3 next season, and it's 12.9 the following season.
Yeah, for probably the best offensive rebounder in the NBA, really good at rim protector.
You know what? Worst case scenario, you could trade him to Memphis. Yeah. If they're just like, we'll give you a first round pick, maybe that appeals to the Knicks. Like, you could trade him to Memphis. And we know that they love those guys, right? They just traded Adams. They just traded Adams, so they could reasonably be like, "All right, look, next year."
Tillman too, right? So
yeah, and so they could reasonably look at it and be like, "Look, obviously this year didn't go to plan, but we know that having elite offensive rebounders next to JJJ, next to Bane, that works. We know that as good as of a help side rim protector type that JJJ can be, we know that he's a helper. He's not necessarily a guy that you want planted at the rim, waiting for the onslaught of drivers to come at him and test him.
And he's a horrible rebounder, right?
Yeah, he's a terrible defensive rebounder. So, like, that's like Mitchell Robinson. I think if the Knicks want to trade him, they could trade him pretty easily, and they could probably get value for him.
Yeah, and to your point, this is something we were talking about this in the Strickland with, in the pipe dream scenario where we get Giannis. Does Hartenstein necessarily, is he the best fit? And I think in terms of spacing, what's missed is like, yeah, Hartenstein doesn't shoot threes. But when a big doubles off of him, he can be so useful. He can hit that little free throw line push shot. But also, if you just leave him at the dunker spot or like a little bit farther than dunker spot, he can hit the push shot, but he can also take 2 dribbles. And this is the biggest difference between him and Mitch. He has he's not Hakeem Olajuwon, but he has a post game. He can take 2 dribbles. He can pump fake. He has touch. Whereas with Mitch, if he's not dunking the ball or it's not a putback, there's nothing. So Hartenstein functionally, there's a reason why Randall has looked a lot better next to him as well. He is not a spacing 5, but he creates space, right? This is not a typical rim running 5. And that offensive versatility matters a lot. And then again, like we're talking about, like it's very hard to find stretch fives who can protect the rim. It's also hard to find plus offensive fives who can protect the rim like Hartenstein. I mean, as much as like I think the last year's playoffs prove that Mitch, when he's like all systems go, is a better player. The reason why some people do prefer Jared Allen is because, yeah, he can't shoot, but he can take the ball at the free throw line. He can pass a little bit. He can take 2 dribbles and he has the coordination to turn that. Where, like, let's say like this is what, like, let's say Randall like gets doubled, kicks it out, and Isaiah Hartenstein is at the free throw line. That's not a dead possession. Hartenstein can dribble. He can back a guy down. He can push shot. He's also not a liability to the free throw line. So overall, especially for this team, it makes a lot of sense to roll with Hartenstein. You have another good backup in Precious. You can hold on to Sims in case the Precious bet doesn't work out. And it also, it gives you some lineup flexibility. The other question though is like, if everyone's here, do you really think Precious is be out of the rotation? That's a leap given how good he's played. But like, if everyone's back, it's just tough to find him minutes, right?
And he's and this is where like it's hard with like the numbers and the salary cap and everything, where it's like, look, do we think Precious is better than Mitch? No. But he gives us value. He's good. And ultimately, if we're paying Hartenstein, we're paying him to be a starting center. So now I don't need to pay a lot. I shouldn't be paying a lot for my backup 5, right? Like I should be paying probably what do you think we could? I think you could probably get Precious for like 3 years, $25 million or something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable.
Like
that's what you should contract, basically.
Yeah.
Maybe extra year.
Yeah. That's what you should be paying your backup 5. So like it sucks because I love Mitch and he's an awesome guy. He's developed, like his development has been incredible in his time in New York, but the numbers just seem like they're going to work against him here, especially because Hartenstein's been so good. Like it's a great problem to have, but it still sucks because like, look, I'm not Leon Rose. I don't need to be cutthroat and ruthless and whatever. Like I like Mitch a lot. He's an awesome guy to root for. He seems like a really good dude. And like, you don't want to lose those guys, but it's the nature of the business. And it does feel like it's cutting against Mitch, unfortunately, here.
I am very curious to see how much do you think last year the Knicks bullied the Cavs, obviously, for the entire series. Mitch was a huge part of that. But Hartenstein also was. How replicable do you think that kind of recipe is if we don't have Mitch?
The offensive rebound recipe?
Yeah, just battering them on the glass, right? That's what Mitch did, but I think Hartenstein did too, and he's capable of that. But
Hartenstein's capable of it, but I think what you're betting on effectively is like we can be a little bit more expansive in how we play to beat an opponent like that. We don't need to like, kind of win in the trenches. We can air it out, right? Like we can fucking, we're going to hang 100 on them. As one great coach once said. But like, I mean, that's what you're betting on effectively, right? Is that you're like, well, this was great, but there's a limit to how good we can be if that's our thing. If that's the core of our identity, there's a limit to it. And it can still be the core of your identity. Like the Knicks are still going to be a really good rebounding team, even if they lost Mitch. But there are different ways to build off of that and build around that. And I think with Mitch, the problem is he's so limited offensively that when he's on the team, and especially when in that role, starting center, like you kind of have to commit to that. That has to be your thing. And I think with Hartenstein, what we're seeing is, hey, we can still be really good on the glass, but now we can attack you in so many more different ways. And now we have everybody in our lineup is capable of dribble, pass. I don't know about shoot, but like dribble and pass for sure. Hartenstein can do those things. And like, look, I know that Mitch, once every fucking 3 months when he decides he's going to take somebody off the bounce, it's really cool. But it's cool because it's a fucking rare thing, right?
It's also like it's a straight line drive where there's no reads, right? Hartenstein these things are a little more complex, right? Like he'll dribble, but he's got his head up.
He's fake dribble handoffs, right? Like a real dribble handoff fake and then drive to the rim. Like it's hard. That's not.
And he's very.
Mitch can't. Yeah.
getting back to this season though, when everyone's healthy, Tyrese was making the point that Bogdanovich would probably get minutes at the 4, right? Because they go 9 deep. So you have the 5 starters, Hartenstein obviously, so that's 6. Hart is going to play, so that's 7. And Burks is going to play, right? He's their only real Burks or McBride, one of them. I would bet on Burks at this point. So you have one spot really left for Bogdanovich. Do you think they go 10 deep in the playoffs because Bogdanovich isn't really the best backup 4? Do you think Precious gets squeezed? What do you think is going to happen? And obviously, knock on wood, they are healthy by the playoffs, so that's a good problem to have for sure. But
yeah, definitely. I would guess that Precious gets squeezed out if Mitch is back and Bogdanovich is back. I could see. The only thing I could see is Tibbs benching one of Burks or Bogdanovich because he likes Precious and he wants to keep him in the rotation.
Which I don't think is a non-zero chance.
I would strongly consider that, especially with Burks.
The problem with Burks is Burks gives you no one else gives you shot creation besides Brunson, right?
Oh, Randall.
What?
Randall.
Is he going to stagger Randall and Brunson? And can you really rely on Randall?
But it might not even matter because he could. We already saw this. He might be like, well, fuck it. I don't care if there's shot creation or not. I'm just not. That might just be what he does. What I'm saying is, I don't think it'll necessarily matter. And if you have Bogdanovich, I still think you have some level of shot creation. Plus, you'll have OG, who he's not the greatest shot creator, but for 2-3 minutes, maybe he can be your guy.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I would be curious. Could they go with Bogdanovich, especially if you pair him with Precious, a good defender? Hardenstein's not lineup. He gives you some, he can open up some things. It'd be interesting. At this point, I mean, Burks, at ceiling, what Burks can do, and again, as bad as the point guard minutes were, and he was miscast, it was a functional offense. I could see that, but I think it's going to be an interesting thing to look at because I think Burks versus Precious at this point is really it's Precious does a lot of the Josh Hart stuff. Does the little things, gets his hands on loose balls, all contests really well without fouling. Actually, he's pretty good at that. Doesn't honestly the rap that he had from the Raptors was, makes boneheaded plays, but is very talented. I actually think his feel has been pretty good. I think Tibbs has simplified his role, but I would hate to not see that guy in the playoffs because I think he's a difference maker right now for this team.
I just like his. I will keep repeating this, but I really like the lineup of him, Randall, and OG in the front court. I think that's exactly the type of lineup where, yeah, it's not a 5-out lineup, but you can defend 5 out pretty well with that group, which is important in the playoffs, especially if we come in and we face a Boston. So that I agree with you. I do agree. I think he's he has a very intriguing defensive skill set that to me feels like it should and probably would be more important in the playoffs. Obviously, we have to get there. We have to see if he plays. We have to see how he plays. But I'm definitely intrigued. He's just everything he's done since he's been in New York is intriguing and it's encouraging. Gives them, and again, to the core of your point though, the main thing is it gives them even more options than they had going into the offseason. Look, getting Precious is great. You talked about it, right? We traded out RJ, we traded out Quick, we traded out Grimes. Can you use Mitchell Robinson in a trade to maybe get back a younger guy on the perimeter? Because look, I like the Burks Bogdanovich move. I think you can already see there are some athletic limitations to those guys in rotation. So maybe you're look, we want to keep Bogdanovich, but we want to get a younger version of what Burks give us. Can we trade Mitch and go get that from some other team on the market? Is that possible?
Bones
so
Highland.
Just stop with why would Bones Highland be the answer to that? Why is Bones Highland the answer to that?
He can shoot from anywhere. He averaged 15 points a game.
Enough with Bones. Enough with Bones.
No,
Bones
I actually, for whatever reason, I think Detroit would love Mitch. So I think Ivy would be a worthwhile.
I think the Spurs could love Mitch. I think the Spurs could be hey, look, we want Wemby to be the 5 long term, but we need to have somebody better than Zach fucking Collins to be the 5 for right now. And at least start games. And yeah, if we want to close the Wemby of the 5, sure, but we want to start games with another center. I think Mitch could be intriguing to them, right? And it's they have Keldon Johnson. Maybe it's Mitch for Keldon Johnson, and that's a trade the Knicks are yeah, well, Keldon's not been great, but we're going to put him in our system, and Tibbs is going to, infuse his brain with exactly where to make rotations. And
There's
he's
also,
athletic.
there's also Portland, right? I don't think this, if they want to build around Scoot, maybe you can add a pick to Mitch and get someone like Simons, right? So
that would be, I don't know if Tibbs might break if he has to figure out how to play Simons and Brunson together.
That's why you have guys like OG, Precious, and Hartenstein.
DiVincenzo even.
I think that you can really test. With how good OG is and how good Hartenstein is, you can test the limits of how bad you can be, and that's what they're doing with Burks and Bogdanovich, right?
You're trying to stress test them.
Yeah, like how much can he cover for? And still, we saw it. I know this is your favorite Knick of all time, but the Knicks have the third best defensive rating in the league.
Most Fugazi third.
When Tyson Chandler won Defensive Player of the Year, despite starting. Their second best defender was J.R. Smith, who did play good defense that year, but they had no defenders besides Tyson Chandler.
Shumpert was good that year in defense.
He was a good on-ball defender, but he was always a better defender in theory than in practice.
He never had the makings of a varsity athlete. I get that. By the way, that was the fakest third defensive rating ever. That the league was fucking awful that year because it was the fucking strike year and half the guys showed up out of shape because they didn't think there was going to actually be a season. That's why they immediately were terrible the next year.
You hate Tyson Chandler more or Melo?
Oh, Tyson, easily. It's not even close. It's just such an unmemorable disgrace of a Knick. But like, yeah, it's again, and to your point, like the options, they have a lot of options. Like DiVincenzo, look, that contract now, given the way he's playing, it's one of the best non-rookie scale contracts in the league.
The only one better might be his backcourt mate, right? So
yeah, so we'll see how it goes. They have a lot of options between, I'm not saying they have to trade any of these guys. I'm just saying like these are guys that now have that are under contract that should hold some value and give them options in the market. DiVincenzo, Hart, like those three: DiVincenzo, Hart, Mitchell Robinson, and Bogdanovich. Very specifically, those four guys to me are like very interesting in terms of what they could potentially. And even a guy like Deuce, like he's got he signed a 3-year, $13 million extension. Like I'm sure there are teams that would have seen enough from him where they're like, hey, look, like if I was Dallas, I might be like, hey, I don't mind getting a good 3-point shooter that's a little bit smaller that can defend point of attack, even if he can't handle the ball, because I don't need him to. I have Luka, I have Kyrie. So I don't need that shot creation. I need guys that can cover for them. So like even he is somebody who I think will have value. So I'm definitely very interested to see how this offseason goes. And kind of like to your point, I don't think it has to just be about star trades. I do think that's what they'll be hunting for. But we also know that they are like willing to work on the margins if that's the best value that's out there for them. So we'll see. All right. I think that's a good place to end it. Stacy, let the people know where they can plug, or let the people know where they can find you and plug anything you'd like to plug. I was going to say, let the people plug you. I was like, maybe that'll come across weird.
Yeah. I'm not your mother, Shwin. You can find me at StacyPatton89. Nothing to plug right now.
Awesome. I have nothing to plug myself. So I will plug all the work at Strickland. I will also plug Doc Rivers just continues to stumble and fail his way upwards in life. He's on an all-time quote run right now. I hope everybody is enjoying that. And I hope everybody's enjoying how garbage Milwaukee has looked since hiring him. Somehow they got worse, which is incredible to me. All right. Anyway, aside from that, I have nothing. So thanks to our sponsor, BetOnline. That is our show for today. I hope everybody has a great week. I'm not sure when me and President are going to record, but probably tomorrow. Who knows? We'll see. I'll let you know. Be on the lookout for that. So that'll probably drop on Friday at some point. Go Knicks. Beat Philly. Let's get back on the winning. Let's build winning habits again.
Let's get on the winning horse. Let's get on Pyomai.
Yes. All right. Everybody have a great week. I'll see you later. Peace.